What's up, SnowTrax Nation? I am here in Sherbrooke, Quebec at Ski-Doo's Training Center, where I'll be joined by Robin Martel, Global Product Manager, and Mary-Eve Sear, Product Specialist, to answer some questions that we've got and some questions that you've submitted about the most highly anticipated new sleds in model year 24. On deck first for this video is the Backcountry X-RS 850 E-TEC. Let's get started. So Robin and Mary-Eve, we have a Backcountry X-RS here. Describe for me, what is a Backcountry and what type of rider is this vehicle intended for?
Yeah, so obviously for this year we introduced the Backcountry on the Rev Gen 5. This sled is really targeted for riders looking for a through 50/50 sled. We've updated the whole skid. It has a ton of new features that really will allow the rider to truly feel and have the best performance in off-trail and trail riding.
And this is really a true 50/50 crossover sled. We like to pride ourselves that we're the only true 50/50. Of course, this one is starting off with a 39 ski stance. So of course we're getting the perfect ski stance to have fun on trail, but also when we want to go off trail, we're able to have something that's pretty maneuverable in the fluffy stuff.
So the Backcountry has traditionally been an extremely popular model. I know so many people where I ride, people that I know, that's their sled. So there's no question that people are familiar with sort of the Backcountry, I guess, usage profile. But this sled is drastically different than last season. This is not just a small change, this is a big change, and it matters for both the on and off trail riders. So let's talk a little bit about what has changed and how that's going to affect either the off-trail or the on-trail side. And let's start by talking about Gen 5. What is the difference between Gen 4 and Gen 5, and how does that benefit these types of riders?
Yeah, so this is, by the way, this is also my favorite sled and the one I've been riding a lot too, putting a lot of time on it. This past winter had the chance to do so, but the Gen 5 on this sled, we're bringing in all the benefits, of course, that you saw with deep snow. And now coming in with the Backcountry, we have the new redesigned chassis, of course. We have also the side panels that are adding more insulation, so we're improving also the NVH of the vehicle. The other thing, big improvement for trail riders, because this is a 50/50 sled, we'll be doing on-trail and off-trail riding. The lighting is totally phenomenal. You guys saw it, I mean, with the passage of Gen 5 with the lumens that are coming out of that headlamp, which is truly amazing. And it's coming in now with the new 10.25-inch touchscreen display that we're also able to have on that sled. So all the benefits of the Gen 5 coming into the Backcountry.
Also, it can't be overlooked that it's got the Gen 5 look, which is a really good looking snowmobile. So of course that matters to people who are spending that kind of money. They want a sexy sled, and they got one, so that's good too.
The color scheme is awesome too.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so I guess what's really important here, more so than looks and more so than headlights really, is how does this sled perform on the trail? What makes this sled different? Now, traditionally I haven't been super into the Backcountry because I spend more of my time on the trail. But this one, when I rode it, it was like, this is a whole new deal. I'll ride this sled happily any day, on or off trail. So
I think it's super important that you're talking about that right now, because that was one of our guiding points when we did basically the passage on Gen 5. We had three things that we wanted to look into and make sure that we paid attention to. That was basically improving the on-trail performance. The second thing was to maintain the off-trail fun factor, while the third thing, maintaining the reliability of the sled. So to improve the on-trail performance, something that you'll see this year is the rack steering that's coming into this model. Here we're showing it on the XRS model. Mm-hmm. The rack steering, some of you are already aware of that steering system that we have, but it's really improving the on-trail control, minimizing also the feedback that you're getting when you're riding on trail, on bumpy trails, and also improving the cornering ability of the sled with more precision when we're coming into the corners with the rack steering.
I can't overstate how impressive that rack steering is when you go from one that doesn't have it directly onto the sled that does.
It's noticeable.
It's a night and day handling difference. It's crazy. Why does the rack steering affect handling that much? What is it technically about that steering system that's so much better?
Yeah, it's really improving the acumen of when we're steering. Also, with the bump control or the bump feedback that we're getting from the sled is improving when we have the rack steering, and also the precision when we're coming in controlling. So the overall ride is benefiting from the rack steering on those 3 levels.
Okay, so the front end, obviously, massive difference, huge improvement. But this is actually where our viewer question comes in, is the next part of this. And Thomas Munns wants to know, what are the changes you did to the rear suspension to make it handle better on the trail? And it's kind of an interesting one because people wouldn't expect you to say, well, we changed the rear suspension so it handles better. If you say I changed the rear suspension, most people think it rides better, but we now know that's not the case. So what's different? What's it called and how is it different?
In this case, I'll go. So the rear skid is called the C-Motion X. It's been completely redesigned. Like you said, it's 80% new parts. It features a front longer arm, it has more travel, and it is lighter. So basically, we took some lessons from the T-Motion suspension that we have in the deep snow segment introduced last year. And, we really applied it to this new C-Motion X suspension. So it is ultimately better on off-trail and specifically on trail riding.
And it's adding, basically, Marie-Ève talked about it, but less weight, so it's 3 pounds less.
3 pounds?
Than the previous skid. We said about the new parts, 80%, and also more travel. So we have 25 millimeter more travel with this new rear skid.
So talk to me a little bit about the technicalities behind the new skid frame and how it affects handling. How do those two things coincide?
Well, it's basically just a combination of all the movement of the parts that we did, because basically the rear arm, the rear shock have been basically longer, put a little bit longer. So we have 13 millimeters more on the rear shock, and also the front arm has been brought back by 30 millimeters. Just a combination of all those adjustments in the suspension are resulting in more travel in the skid. So we're having more capacity when we're coming down the trails. So much better performance overall.
So tell me about how that changes the sled, how it actually rides through bumps. Would you say that it provides a plusher ride through bumps than the previous version, or is it very similar?
It's definitely not similar, because if you're riding a Gen 4 and a Gen 5 back-to-back, you'll definitely see the benefits right away of that new rear suspension. Because of the increased capacity, this is really a game changer, and it's a night and day experience when we're going down those bumpy trails at higher speeds, and you're getting kicked around much less on the sled when you're doing a little bit more aggressive riding. So, the passage on the C-Motion X, just overall, better feeling on trail, and also off trail. We're not losing any of that fun factor there. Also, since it's, as Marie-Ève mentioned, inspired from the T-Motion X also.
Very interesting. So it handles better and it rides better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's just overall better.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I would like to talk about before we kind of shift gears to something else is what are the different variants of the backcountry? Because there's a number of different variants of this sled, and how do they differ from each other?
So we reworked a bit the lineup for the backcountry. So obviously we still have the Sport model, which is still on the RevGen 4 platform, but we then have the Adrenaline, the X, and the XRS, like we have with us right now. And obviously depending on the model you choose, whenever you go like from X or XRS, you obviously have more features on it.
Mm-hmm.
And just the addition of the features as you go up the package here we're featuring the 154 XRS. So here, this is a fully dressed package, if I can say so. But we'll have on this model here the adjustable brake lever. On all the models, we have the ice scratchers that are now stock. So this, of course, is improving the cooling when we're on trail riding. We have the rail reinforcement that's on the XRS model, okay. And the XRS also features the adjustable brake lever.
In terms of rack steering, is that across the lineup?
The rack steering is only available on the X and XRS models.
X and XRS models, okay. And in terms of track lengths, there's multiple track lengths available as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's the 146, and we also have the 154. And when we go on the 154, of course, it'll be a little bit maybe more off-trail bias. So because of that, we're offering the 2-inch paddles on that sled, and also the 2.5-inch paddles on the 154 package.
Can you get a 154 at all different model levels?
No, it's only available on the XRS.
Okay, right on. So there's an extensive list of choices you're going to have to make for 24 when you go to buy a backcountry. You got to decide what you want and what's most important to you. But the good thing is that you've got a model for every basically price level as well. So there's really no excuse for anybody not to have a backcountry if they really want one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. Awesome. Yeah. That's really interesting. The backcountry for me, after riding it, was one of the most drastically changed snowmobiles I think I've ever ridden. In terms of something that you can see the looks of it, but the real meat of it is something you can't see just by looking at it. You really have to know what you're looking for, but it made such a huge difference. So really great job. Of course, this sled does have a sister sled, sort of, maybe a bigger brother if you want to call it, and in the Freeride, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Freeride in a second. All right, now we're back and we have a Freeride. This is an 850 E-TEC Turbo R. Now the Freeride is really the pinnacle of like rowdy performance, have fun, off trail though. This is a mountain sled. This is not a crossover. It's a pretty hardcore vehicle. But before we get into talking about it, we need to position it. You have a lineup of off-trail mountain sleds, we'll call them mountain sleds. And they all have a different purpose, and this fits in with that. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about how your mountain lineup has been delineated this year more specifically?
Yeah, so we really wanted to have a ride for everyone. So we have obviously the Summit X, which is really for that agile, nimble, effortless type of riding. And then we have the Expert, which is really targeted for more technical riding, going through these trees, doing some side hilling. And then obviously we have the Freeride, which is really the extreme capacity, big bumps and jumps, really the just send it mentality, obviously.
I like that. The just send it mentality, yeah. Yeah, and anybody I see riding one really does have that mentality for the most part. So now I guess one of the big things that we've seen on our end, we are obviously flatlanders, but we had the Backcountry X-RS here. I see a lot of people trying to make a decision between a Backcountry X-RS and a Freeride, especially in that 146 category. What is that decision they're trying to make, and what would influence them either way? What do you guys see as being the right choice for a person in different scenarios?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and we do sell quite a few units of Freeride, let's say in the flatland, so in the eastern North America for sure. So this sled does have a lot of appeal. The first thing, of course, is to ask yourself, what type of riding do I do? And there is a lot of off-trail riding that's done in the eastern flatland part of North America. But the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what do we really want to do? With the backcountry, we talked about it, the ski stance a little bit wider. Here we're talking about a ski stance that's 36 wide, so it's a little bit more narrow. The other thing that really stands out when you look at the backcountry versus the Freeride is a type of riding. The backcountry is going to be adapted for both, we said, a true 50-50. So you're going to be able to do some trail riding and also do some off-trail riding. This, in terms of ergo, you look at this sled and you see right away it's something else. First of all, of course, the standout look, but the second thing is just the type of riding and how we're positioned on the sled, with the riser being different. A little bit of a higher riser. It's more of a stand-up style riding and really made for that deep snow riding. And really a lot of cool things that we did this year with the Freeride, and bringing it really tailored to what it's meant to do.
Not a lot of windshield here.
No
Not a lot of warmth on the cold days for trail riding or lake running. Yeah. So, I mean, basically what it boils down to is, I guess it's really kind of common sense. If you're going to be riding on trail for sort of any larger portion, then you're gonna go with Backcountry because it does have that 50-50. It has the on-trail manners, it rides good and it handles good, but it's still extremely capable off-trail, as everyone who owns one already knows. But if you are gonna spend 90+% of your time off-trail, then the Freeride becomes a really great option. And you know, if you are gonna spend that time on-trail, probably not the best choice to buy a Freeride for that kind of riding. So some of your top ambassadors, and I actually met with a few of them, were obviously not just excited, but they looked giddy. They were so excited when you pulled the sheets off this sled for this season. Why were they so excited about it? What were the changes that was made to this sled that got them so pumped?
Yeah, so many changes that were made on Freeride this year. The first thing that stands out is the high capacity front shocks that we introduced. So now we have the KYB 40 in the front, so 40 millimeter shock with the piggyback. So ultra capacity, and those have been calibrated also to have 50% more compression damping.
Oh, wow.
So they have ultimate capacity. And this is done also with a revisiting of the front spindles the geometry has been adjusted a little bit. The reason for that is that they were telling us when they're jumping off these cliffs or doing these massive jumps, they want something that's going to be super stable on the landing. So the adjustments that have been done by the engineering guys on this really meet that need. And then going back to the back of the vehicle, we you know, we're talking about fast-paced, momentum-driven riding. So to be able to achieve that, we modified the rear track. Now it's a 15-inch instead of what we have in Summit with the 16-inch, and plus a full rod. And we're bringing in also the T-Motion XT with the fixed rear arm in there to be able to really give those guys all the weapons that they need to be able to tackle that rough terrain. So yeah, overall, you know, a lot of changes done on this machine, and it's you know, what they said to us was, we got something that we would have made ourselves straight out of the box.
Well, and the comment I heard too when the sheets were pulled off, and I was there for it, they were all just so pumped about a 146 two-stroke turbo.
Yeah.
And I heard them all whispering to each other, like, can you imagine what this is going to be like? And that's kind of a new combination too,
Exactly.
isn't
it? Yeah, it's a new combination, and that's a super good point, and that was coming from their feedback too. And now the idea is that we have so much power that we're able to have a shorter track still going into the backcountry, the deep snow, and these guys with this machine are able to wheelie it through the trees and being able to do awesome maneuvers with the sled.
And watching them is a little bit baffling, but
yes,
it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess what it boils down to is you need to be selecting your sled based on reality, not based on your ego. Because there's a lot of people out there who want to be Freeride riders, but aren't really Freeride riders, and they're doing themselves a disservice to buy a Freeride if they're really an expert or an X-Package rider.
Definitely.
And that's something that we battle a lot in all areas of snowmobiling, but in the mountains, everybody wants to be a free rider, but not everybody is. So keeping that clear in your own mind is probably going to do yourself a bigger service than letting your ego talk for you.
Yeah,
right on point. So another thing I noticed looking at this sled is that you've done some changes here with the ski as well, and this is something new for the Freeride. So talk to me a little bit about the ski and how it pairs with the front suspension and how it affects the overall sled.
So yeah, so we have the DS4 skis. So we took these from the Expert package, and obviously combined with the new front spindle geometry, it's really perfect again for these extreme, maneuvers and jumps and bumps. So yeah.
Thanks for watching this more in-depth segment talking about the Freeride and the Backcountry models. Keep in mind this is just one part of a 4-part series in these virtual hangouts, so make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our updates, but in particular, these new series on the model year 24 sleds.